Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. Today's show is part 2 of my interview with Jason Gleaves, author of UFO Encounters Up Close and Personal. In your opinion, Jason, why is it that some UFO cases take off like wildfire and capture the imagination of the public, while others, although just as interesting and important to the exploration of the UFO phenomena, don't have the same steam?
Probably down to the way it's actually put out there. If I receive a sighting or a piece of footage, an image, I try to approach every single one in the same way. I'll start at the beginning where I will ask about the person involved. I'll try and get a sort of a profile background of the person. Say it was an aerial light in the sky, in a dark sky. I would ask, obviously, if there are any airports, local, any military bases within that area. I would go into weather phenomenon, obviously cloud base, depending, because that can produce unusual effects of people have come forward. And then I would start to get into, if it was a nighttime shot, like I said, I would go through the apps that you can get now where you can check to see what satellites are within the area, aircraft apps, they're all available online now. So you tell what is in your area at the time of the sighting and basically try to eliminate all those things first before I'll actually dig deep and then start the analysing of the image itself. I would always try to upscale the image. You've got to be careful with certain images because when you post images, say I posted an image to you and you posted it to somebody else and it goes around a couple of times. Each time it's posted, it's going to degrade, it's going to lose its detail. So again, you would actually try and get the most recent, up-to-date, original image that you can of the subject. Then I would enlarge that photograph to the largest capacity I could, really upscale the image. And then when you actually zoom in, again, I use Photoshop, but like I say to people, I don't use Photoshop to change the image. I use it for the filters and everything that's accompaniment to Photoshop, which is great for bringing out detail that you can't normally see. And you can invert photographs. Again, you can bring out more detail. And then when I've upscaled the image itself, and then obviously gone in and worked on an image to bring out the detail. If you've actually upscaled it in the first place, when you've upscaled up, you don't get so many pixels within the digital print. If you didn't do that first, you would upscale an image and all it would do is bring up large cubes and things and pixels for you to actually view. And then you can, after you've eliminated what you think it could be or go down that road, and then you can start thinking, well, is it actually something unknown? At the end of the day, it could still be a UFO, but like we said before, a UFO actually stands for unidentified flying object. Until it's identified, it's always going to be unidentified. And that's basically the way I attack everything.
You, Jason, employ the latest updated imagery, computer science, technology, and software to capture UFOs and other paranormal phenomena. Could you share some of those tools that you use?
Yeah, it's basically any Photoshop application that you can buy over the internet. There's no secret to this. It's just something that nobody had really actually done before, where they would use the filters within actually analyzing a photograph. And you would overlay the different layers and it would build up a picture, sort of a 3D picture of an object. And sometimes it's blatantly obvious it's an aircraft or a bird or something that you wouldn't normally see within that image that you've analyzed originally or untouched. So it's not a secret that I would keep from anybody. Anyone can do this. Just like I say, if you want to actually go out and see a UFO yourself, people constantly ask me, I've never seen a UFO and I would love to see a UFO. And I will just go outside at night in your garden. And if you're ready to see a craft or have an interaction or a C5, they call it, if you're ready and they're ready, you will see one.
When analyzing photos or videos of UFO UFOs, what criteria do you use to determine if what you are looking at is indeed the real thing, an unexplained anomaly, or an outright fake?
Like I said before, I'll go through that process that I just explained with every single case. So there's no difference. Even at the end of doing all that analysis right through, and it turned out to be an aircraft. A good example I could give you in the first book I actually did on the UFO photo book, there was a Brazilian airline pilot. And again, we all know pilots in general are the best observers of around because they have to be in conjunction with their job and flying a plane safely. He'd been on vacation over here in the UK in Wiltshire, and he'd actually taken photographs of the surrounding area, and in front of him there were two flagpoles where I think that was what he was actually taking the photograph of. And right behind in the distance, there was two elongated objects. And you could really see that they were elliptical in shape, UFO all day. If you look at them, again, I went through the process. And you can see that in the book where I went through the entire process. At the end, when I analysed, went in and brought up the detail, they were two fighter jets from the local Air Force base. See that within the detail. But because of the distance and your eye can play tricks on what you'd see, you could see that they were aircraft. I would approach every single case the same. I would go through. If it turned out to be an object or UFO that I can't explain, it's unknown to us, that still doesn't mean it's not explainable. It could be a covert craft of some kind that we don't know about. Could be a number of things still, but I've eliminated everything I can think it could be. I'll go through and then I would just put it out into the community with the evidence that I've actually come up with. The witnesses, if they want to come forward, not everyone does. And basically put it out to people what they see, and everybody sees different things.
Did you, Jason, find any common denominators amongst the experiencers you spoke with?
Different people have had different experiences, but there are, like you said, a lot of common denominators that will always bring it back, where people have had experience of the Greys taken on board and everything in conjunction with that. They go through the same medical experimentations and things. But then I've just worked with Calvin Parker, who was one of the abductees on the Pascagoula, Mississippi case in '73 with Charles Hickson. Next year, I'll be bringing out a graphic novel that I've been doing with him. But he was taken on board, and everybody, again, within your listeners will know that he actually saw this type of being. He actually calls them the ugly ones. And when he was taken on board his craft, he had an interaction with a female ET on board. And no one's ever seen the female ET because no one's ever come up with anything to describe an illustration of him. So I've worked closely with Calvin, getting basically like a police photo fit. So I've been illustrating and bringing up and saying, is this the female you saw? And he'd say the eyes were different, the nose was different. That is the illustration that came up of the female ET that was taken when he was taken on board with Charles. So again, they're different because he didn't have any interaction with small greys. He was a large robot-like being taken on board. Then there's an awful lot of people too. There's a good friend of mine, Peter Slattery, who's in Australia, and I put Peter within the top 1% in the world of photographing ETs and craft. He has a lot to do with James Gilliland at the SETI Ranch too. I've had an awful lot of things to do there for them to analyse images again. But with Peter in Australia, we've just done a documentary, multi-dimensional. I think it's on Amazon Prime and iTunes and everything. And I actually analysed footage that he's got of a grey that was in his house appearing when he set up a camera. And then when he went outside, he had footprints going over his ceiling when he went outside and photographed a grey popping up from behind his car. And the craft he actually goes out and films is just unbelievable. So I would advise anyone to actually go over and check out his webpage. I think it's eseti.org. And again, you'll see footage that I've analysed on there for him. And again, but he's had interactions with small greys, tall greys, different types of beings, and he's also had interactions where the Nordics, that type of being, has come in and interacted with him as well. So,
in your research, Jason, have you found the UFO phenomena to be global in nature, or is it more prevalent in certain countries? And if that's the case, why do you or those experts you've communicated with think is the reason that alien beings have chosen to have contact with some countries rather than others?
it's definitely a global phenomenon. Just through the people I've met, people I've contacted with, again, a lot become good friends. You generally, when you've spoken with somebody who's had a contact, etc., they do become a friend. I would say the likes of Brazil and Mexico are more upfront with it because they actually put it on their national television. It's actually put out there, and they've got a different approach to it. They seem to accept everything straight away. Over here in the UK, just like America, if you go back 10 years or so to UFO conferences, etc., to nowadays, you're really talking about the caliber of person that goes to these conferences now. Before, it was always the tin hat people, the tin foil. Everyone thought they were nutcases and the usual sort of thing. But now, the caliber of person that goes to these conferences, you're talking everyone in every walks of life that you will see at these places, because people are waking up to what's actually happening in the world. Likes of France, they're probably up front. Their government are involved with an awful lot of things. I think through Stephen Greer, he has a lot to do with that side, or has done, contacts with Australia, with Pete, when they've got a big following over there where people are actually seeing an awful lot of craft, and always have done. So it's definitely a worldwide thing and becoming more of a more connected worldwide phenomenon.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to buy UFO Encounters up close and personal, how can they do that?
They can purchase it either through Flying Disc Press, through Philip Mantle, or on Amazon Prime. And you can obviously purchase any other of my books from those sources as well.
Jason Gleaves, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. I wish you success with your book.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched, so that you don't miss any of my upcoming shows, where each week you'll find me yakking with a different outstanding guest. Be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. All you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.